Welcome to episode 27 of the Brooklyn Knitfolk podcast. My name is Jacqueline. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry, basically every social media as @JacquelineSalem. This is a podcast about knitting, sewing, and acquiring all of the crafty yarn and sewing related goodness and whatever other random projects I get up to here in Brooklyn, New York City, where I live with my roommate and my two kitties, Jafar and Mika. And thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to give an extra special welcome to these people who introduced themselves in the Ravelry group. Cozy in TLV, CNY Beginner, Megan Gold, Cleo Rack, Steph Napa, Bilingual Ann, Corey 4141, Knitting Janie, Daisy 220, Shayna Little Leaf, Rosemont, Daha Winter, Devin K, Rosie Baby, Chinko Island Girl, Tammy Ann 64, and I don't know if it's Mish or Mike, M-I-C-H 10. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves in the Ravelry group, and hello, I'm so happy to have you guys here. I have been participating in VLOGMAS, in case you didn't know. It's where I post a short video blog every single day from December 1st to December 25th. Tomorrow is Christmas, today is Christmas Eve, and it's been a lot of fun. I am so happy and thrilled with how excited you guys have been about it and how much you guys seem to be loving the Vlogmas that I've been doing. It shows a lot of clips around New York City, so if you like my intros, which I know a lot of people do, it's kind of like my intros on crack, because then you get to see everything that I'm doing all day long, and it's got a bunch of like knitting and crafting goodness thrown in the mix too, in addition to seeing how I live my day-to-day life in New York City. So if that interests you, you can check that out. I have a whole playlist devoted just to Vlogmas 2016 videos, so you can just watch them all in order if you want, or stop and start, whatever you'd like to do. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say about Vlogmas. I'll probably talk a little bit more about the experience at the end of this podcast, but for now that's all you need to know about that. And then with that, we are going to jump right into finished objects. I have two this week. The first one also finally got some sock blockers. I'll be talking about these in acquisitions at the end. I know everyone's like, yay! So my Merry Everything Hexie socks. This is Coloring Book Yarns in the Merry Everything Hexie colorway. And I love Coloring Book Yarns. I love it. It was just so fun to knit these socks. As per usual, I cast on 56 stitches, knit about 20 rounds of 2x2 rib, and then I knit a fairly long leg on the sock, a fish lips kiss heel, the foot, and then a rounded toe. I love how these turned out, and I tried to make them matching exactly. Something you'll know if you watched my Vlogmas is how much this little stripe of pink bugs me. I should have done a contrasting heel, so honestly, it's my own fault. I have no one to blame but myself. But this little stripe of pink in between where the red section ends here and then starts again drives me nuts. But you know what? At least it's consistent on both socks, because this one has it too. So I love how they turned out. I did wear them around my apartment a little bit yesterday. It's kind of weird. I haven't worn any of my hand knit socks all year, even though I'm not participating in Kristen's Boxo Socks Cal. I wish I could have, but I didn't learn how to knit socks until probably early summer this year, I want to say. I can't remember exactly for sure, but because I started so late, I just haven't been I knew I wasn't going to finish 12 pairs of socks in a year, and that's Kristen, who hosts the Yarngasm podcast, by the way. And I love how these turned out, but again, I haven't been wearing any of my socks, and I think it's like in my head I'm still like participating in Box of Socks, even though I'm not, and so I'm just going to have, I think, how many socks did I complete this year? It's going to be in my knitting and review at the end of the year. 7 pairs of socks. So I've completed 7 pairs of socks this year. This is my 7th pair. I have 2 more pairs that are both works in progress, but I didn't finish those. But overall, I'm really pleased with how these turned out. This is one of my favorite yarns. Right here. One of my favorite yarns to work with. And as I mentioned in the previous episode of the podcast, Coloring Book Yarns, she does very erratic, irregular updates. And she doesn't really post about it on Instagram when she does them. So the best way that I've had luck-wise in finding her yarn is to just browse her Instagram, her Etsy shop on occasion. And twice now I've gotten lucky and got this yarn, and then last time I got some of her Sweet Tooth colorway. So if you're trying to get your hands on some, that's what I recommend, just kind of browsing her Etsy shop on the regular random intervals, seeing if there's anything in there, because that's how I've gotten yarn 2 times. So my Merry Everything Hexie socks. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say about these. I knit them on 9-inch circulars. Towards the end of the episode, I'm going to be going over my sock recipe in full detail because I've had a lot of questions about how I knit my socks, so I figured I would just do one really content-rich segment for the podcast to discuss how I personally knit my own socks. But yeah, 9-inch circulars, which is my preferred method of choice for knitting socks. So I'm really excited about how these turned out. I can't wait to wear them. I'm probably going to pop these on immediately after finishing recording today. So my second finished object, and again, you will have seen these if you've been watching Vlogmas, some simple house slippers by Temple of Knit. Aren't these so cute? They're like a monkey sock version, I think. So I knit these. It's a free pattern, by the way. Simple House Slippers by Temple of Knit. You can find them on the Temple of Knit website, and they're also on Ravelry. And you cast on 40 stitches of this right here, this whatever color you want this to be, or you can do them all in one color. I just chose to do the 2. You cast on 40 stitches and knit 32 rows flat. And then once you knit those 32 rows, you'll join in the round. And I kept the red for the first 2 rows because once they're on your feet, this is my 3rd time knitting this pattern now, they're a great gift knit because they're really quick. Once they're on your feet, you can't really see the color of this when you're looking down, and I wanted to be able to see a little bit of the red on my foot or the recipient's foot whenever she looks down at the slipper. So I knit 2 rounds in the round of the red and then switched to this marl color. And the yarn I used is this Patton's Classic Wool in the worsted weight. So I just picked this up at Michael's. This is the bright red color, and then the gray is the dark marl color. And then you keep knitting in the round until you get 1 inch away from the toe, and then there are specific toe instructions. I think the entire toe is about 6 to 8 rows. I can't remember exactly for sure. And then that's the finished object. I think too, if I'm not mistaken, the pattern does call for DK weight yarn, but every single pair I've made, I've knit in the worsted weight, and it seems to be fine. But yeah, simple house slippers, Temple of Knit. And you seam up the back whenever you're finished. So the flat, once you join in the round, you kind of have an open back right here, and you just seam that with a mattress stitch. So yeah, those are the simple house slippers. I'm really excited. I think she's gonna love them, in addition to another little gift I got her. But I think this would also look really, really great with like a yellow, a super bright yellow in the marl, or a mint color in the marl. I think that would look really cool. So that will probably be coming up eventually. And I really want to knit a pair of these for myself. I've made, like I said, 3 pairs of these, actually 4, I can't remember. I've made several pairs of these now, and I still haven't made a pair for myself. So I want to, but they're, like I said, great gift knit because they're so quick. And now we're going to move into the works in progress segment of the podcast. This first one, I was invited to Kristen of the Yarngasm podcast in Bull and Vine Yarn's holiday party. And when I went there, I should have known better than to not bring knitting with me. I don't know why I didn't. Major oversight. But when you're in a house that has, you know, as much yarn as Kristen has, you're probably going to be okay, which I was. So she took me to her scraps stash and said, here, just pick out a scrap bit of anything that you want from this bin. And I picked up this one, and it's her Jilted Rose colorway, and I'm not sure if the stellina is going to come off, but it's a stellina yarn, and it's so pretty. So this is Wool and Vine Yarns in the Jilted Rose colorway, and I weighed it and it's just under 50 grams of what I have here. So these will be shorty socks, the first shorty socks I've ever knit. I'm not really a shorty socks person, but my sister loves shorty socks, so I think these are going to be a gift for her. So I've knit 56 stitches for the cast on, 2x2 rib, and then I've joined here for some stockinette knitting, and then I'm about to put in the toe, or not the toe, the heel. So there's what it looks like. Isn't this colorway just gorgeous? I love Jilted Rose. I'm really considering buying a sweater's quantity of this. I think it would make an amazing cardigan. And for the contrast, I want to do a contrasting heel and toe just to make sure that I don't run out of yarn. I'm considering this color right here, which I know seems really strange probably to a lot of you, but there are a lot of flecks of red in this. And so I think it will pick up the tones of this. I know it's crazy, but this is just kind of like my style. I love neutrals with pops of neon. It's been a thing. So this is one option. Another option, but I don't have one on me, I'm sure I have one in my scraps bin, is I was thinking about doing a red contrasting heel and toe, because I think that would look really good with it. Just for effect. We'll see. So these are my Jilted Rose socks, and I'm knitting these on carbons, which again, because that's what she had. And I really love carbons for socks. I'm like I said, a 9-inch circular needle knitter for socks. My second choice would be DPNs. I just don't like magic loop, and the reason why, and it is fast, the reason why is because I accidentally, too many times, when I'm switching over to the other needle, have pulled out the wrong needle or pulled the needle too hard and left half of the stitches open and had to go back and pick it up. And it's not like a huge deal anymore like it was when I first started knitting. It would be like, ah, what do I do? But it's annoying enough and happened enough to where I just don't like magic loop for that reason, because I keep accidentally pulling it out of half of the stitches. So that's why I prefer 9-inch circulars and DPNs, but these are great for DPNs because, like you've probably heard on several other podcasts, carbons, the shaft of the needle has a bit of a grippier texture to it than just normal metal. It's not like super grippy, but it's just enough to where it will hold on to these stitches and they won't fall off. For DPNs, I definitely prefer wooden needles over metal needles, just because, again, the DPNs will just like slide out of the sock. This one, for example, because I'm in the middle of this row right here, has 4 stitches on it. If I were knitting on a metal needle, because I am a fairly loose knitter, the DPN would just fall right out. So that's why I prefer the wooden needles. And now carbons, I love carbons for DPNs because they are still grippy but a little bit more slick than a wooden needle would be. So I'm really loving the carbons for that reason. I have heard from a lot of people that the joins always come loose if you're knitting with magic loop. I've heard that from several sources, that this will just kind of like pop right off and you have to like screw it back on. Not a huge deal, but again, annoying enough to where you shouldn't have to be dealing with that on a constant or consistent basis. So I've just started only been working with these just for the DPN, so I can't say if it's the same for the DPNs versus magic loop, but you get the idea. So that is a work in progress number 1. And this is living in my Maker's Haven bag. This is a gift from Amber, who was formerly of Simple Love Made, and now she is Maker's Haven, and it's made entirely out of, or mostly out of, Rifle Paper Company fabrics. I got this in our Advent Calendar weekly swap that was organized? I cannot talk today. I need to slow down a little bit. My Advent Calendar swap that was organized by Melissa of the Spicy Homemaker podcast, and this was the gift that she gave me to open right away, and I love this bag. I love it so much. And I have a little lavender sachet popped in there. Every time I open this project bag, even if it's not open and it's just like sitting somewhere, you can smell the lavender in this, and I love the smell of lavender. So that's what this project is doing. My next work in progress, oh you guys, you guys, you're gonna be so mad at me for showing this to you, especially if you haven't already cast one on, because let's be honest, it is probably one of those projects that is the most addicting project I've ever worked on in my life. You know what it's gonna be. Do you? The granny stripe blanket. And I shunned it at first. I cast this on, honestly, right after Chelsea cast hers on. Chelsea of the Legacy Knits podcast. Right after she cast hers on, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I love how the granny stripe blanket uses every single scrap of the yarn, every single bit of it. And crochet, because it uses up more yarn than knitting does, it just eats through your mini stash. I cannot even tell you how satisfying it is. Like, I'm one of those people that throws things away before I realize that I still need it, and I'm just like, oh crap, I have to go out and buy it again. But I'd rather go out and buy something again than have something sitting in my apartment, especially because New York apartments are so small. So it satisfies this need for me to get rid of things and then also to make things at the same time. It's amazing, amazing. So I'm going to take you through my blanket in fairly great detail as to how my recipe is. So I'm using this F hook right here. This is a clover hook. I started out on a 3.5 E hook. And the reason I switched to this one was because it had a really pointy metal jabby end on it, and I just like couldn't stand it. It was like a hole in my hand all the time whenever I was working on it. So I walked around the corner to a craft store that's local to me called Artisan Craftsman, and they did not have the E hook. They had an F hook and a C hook. Those were all they had in that sort of range. So I was like, well, the F hook will probably be fine. That's what I picked up. This is a clover hook. I love this hook. It's so malleable and squishy in your hand. It's so comfortable to use. So I highly recommend this clover hook if you're looking for a hook to use for your granny stripe blanket. I have heard really great things about the tulip hooks, but again, those were not available to me at the time, and I was like really wanting to work on this, so I just kind of got what was available to me. And I love the clover hook. I wouldn't change to a tulip hook at all based on my experience with this. So this again is an F 3.75. So I switched to that after knitting with the metal one for so long. So I cast on the blanket with around 340 to 360 stitches. I lose count on things frequently when casting on and to begin with, and I was not about to sit there and try to count exactly how many chain stitches I had. Basically, I just held it up along my bed, and if it was queen size-ish, it was fine. And you're supposed to crochet your foundation chain in multiples of 3, but I figured if I got to the end and it didn't work out, I would just like, you know, fudge it, put them together, whatever. It's fine. It's just a scrap blanket. It's not that big of a deal. So I cast on the blanket with around 340 to 360 stitches. It is quite wide. It's definitely a queen size width. And it's going to be so cozy. I love it so much. Once you get past this foundation chain, where you knit the chain and then into the chain, it flies by. But man, this foundation row was a bear to knit, and the reason why I put it down for so long because I just like couldn't stand knitting into that foundation chain, and I didn't know that that's not what it was going to be like for the rest of the blanket. I was just under the impression like, oh, so these clusters of 3 are going to be the only fun part, like I'm going to always have to be knitting into the chain in some way. But no, that's not how it works at all. It is so fast. So fun. I love it so much. So persevere through this foundation row, because once you get past that, it is so fun and quick. And picking out the colors has been amazing. I will say that if I had the option of having the 3.5mm hook, the size E rather than the F, I think I would have gone for that. It's not that I'm particularly displeased with the gauge I'm getting, but I don't know, something about it seems like that would have been better to me. But I am being particular about the colors that I'm picking out to use in this. I'm trying to use mostly neutrals, lighter colors, and then pops of neon and dark colors. I'm avoiding jewel tones for the most part, and avoiding browns. I don't know, it's hard to say. I'm really weird about colors. I like every single color, but I like certain shades and tints within those colors. I'm pretty particular about it, so it's hard to say, but just looking at this, it just feels like me. It feels very much like me, and I love it. And right now I'm knitting with a mini that Amber, again from Maker's Haven, gave to me. This is a Homespun House mini from a Sock of the Month Club in September, and I just love those colors. So yeah, this is my blanket, crocheting away. It's, again, so addictive. So if you've been on the fence about casting one on, do it. It eats through your minis like crazy. The result is just so beautiful. Oh, I love it so much. I can't even tell you how much I love this. It's wonderful. Yep, and I think that's it for all I want to say about the granny stripe blanket. Cast one on. It's a fantastic project. Crochet is really fun to work with too, and it's been a long time. Crochet was actually what I learned how to do before I learned how to knit when I was in college, but I just like the look of knitting better, so I didn't really kind of stick with it, but that's my blanket. My next work in progress is another pair of simple house slippers by Temple of Knit. This one is also going to be a gift. And the yarns I'm using for this are this hand spun from Lisa, who is Saratoga Knitting. We had a swap table at the Washington County Farm and Fiber Tour, and this is something she put on the table up for grabs. And so I was like, hand spun? Yes, please. So that's going to be, this yarn right here is going to be where the red is on this, kind of like the foot in the first couple rounds of the leg. And then this is going to be the yarn I use for the remainder of it. And this is a Fiber Story yarn in the Daybreak colorway. And it's 100% superwash merino. It's a single ply. It will pill like crazy, but it's a DK weight yarn. Any kind of DK weight yarns I have in my stash just sit there because I have hardly any patterns in my queue that are DK weight. I don't know what it is, but I just don't really, I don't gravitate toward DK weight patterns. Not on purpose, but it's just, yeah. So this is the yarn I'm going to be using for that. And I just really love how these two work together. It's kind of like a green-blue, very soft and pretty colors. So yeah, I just cast those on last night, and now I'm knitting flat for the 32 rounds with 40 stitches, and then I'll join in the round and add this to it. And then last but certainly not least, there are definitely other projects that I have going right now, but those are the ones I've been consistently working on. Next, I want to talk about Christmas Eve Cast On, which is taking the knitting world by storm. If you haven't heard of Christmas Eve Cast On, Danny from the Little Bobbins Knits podcast a few years ago recently talked about how she always loves to cast on a pair of socks on Christmas Eve and knit on them through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day while she, plays games with her family. And everybody was so attracted to that idea. They're like, I really want to do that too. And it's exploded into this really cool thing where we're all casting on pairs of socks on Christmas Eve. And I've finally, I think, selected my yarn for it. I got it down to these two. This is Bookworm from Molly of a Homespun House. I love the colors in this. And then this one is a self-striping yarn called Rudolph and Clarice, and this is a Sweet Sparrow Yarns self-striping yarn. I had such a hard time picking out between the two of these, but I think because this one is more seasonal, it is called Rudolph and Clarice, although it's not overtly Christmas by any means. I think I am going to cast on this one. Plus, I think it's just nice to cast on something from a close friend of mine. I love Julie's yarn. I support everything she does, and she's just so talented. So I'm going to be casting these on. I'll save these for another project in the future. And this is going to be my Christmas Eve cast on. I'm so excited. I'll probably cast this on right after I put on my socks that I just finished, and then I'm going to start knitting away, and it's already rolled up for me, and I love like knitting from hand wound balls. It's just really nice. So yeah, Rudolph and Clarice, this is going to be my Christmas Eve cast on. And then now we're going to move into the Spoolish Games segment of the podcast. Spoolish Games is the sewing segment where I talk about my sewing projects, quilting projects, etc., etc. Again, if you follow Vlogmas, you probably saw the debacle that was this day, and this dress had something to do with it in particular. So, this is a work in progress. This is Vogue V9 100. Let me see if I can show you yeah, here we go. This is the pattern. Gorgeous dress. It's a shape silhouette that I'm attracted to and ready to wear all the time. I wear this kind of style dress all the time. Kind of got a bit of a higher waistline, a very full skirt, and a scooped neckline. Love this pattern. The lining has been giving me considerable trouble. I posted on Instagram, I'm looking for lining recommendations. Lots of people recommended to me this rayon Berg. And so I got on to fabric.com, ordered the rayon Berg. It arrived. It is very silky, silky soft, super, super soft. It feels like those silky tank tops. I should have known, because it feels like those silky tank tops, that I probably wasn't going to like it. And to me, that is definitely a matter of personal preference. If you like the feel of this against your skin, then you will love Berg rayon. It is definitely a dupe for silk kind of materials. It's very soft, very breathable. When I wear it, it's very comfortable against the skin. My only problem is I really don't like the feel of silky things on my skin. It's weird. I know it sounds strange, but I don't love it. I wish I had picked a cotton instead, like a more breathable, solid cotton, because I think that that would have been more comfortable to me. Not only that, it's a very slick fabric and makes it incredibly difficult to work with. It's sliding around everywhere. It's a challenge, not undoable, but definitely challenging, requiring lots of pins to make sure everything kind of fits into place. So as you will have known from previous discussions on sewing patterns, Big Four patterns, McCall's, Butterick, Simplicity, and Vogue, they tend to have a lot of positive ease built into them. And I've learned from you guys, so thank you so much, that in the future I should be checking out the finished measurements of the garment before I pick out what pattern piece to sew. Why I didn't think of that before, I have no idea, but they have lots of positive ease built into them, so I'm typically going to have to go several sizes smaller, probably at a minimum 2 sizes smaller than what I've been using right now. So the dress is quite large right now. It had a lot of extra yardage in it. To make up for that, I took in the sides, but because I was taking in the sides, it was pulling out the straps to the edges of my shoulders to the point where my right shoulder strap is falling off. So it's been suggested to me, and I will definitely, I'm pretty sure this is what I'm going to do to fix it. I'm going to take out the side seams that I did to kind of take it in a little bit. I won't show you that because it's not going to make much sense, but I'm going to take out the extra seaming I did to take it in on the side and make it not take it in as much, and then I'm going to add darts to the back on either side of the zipper to fix the situation. As for the lining, at this point there's really nothing I can do unless I want to take this out and then make, you know, a lining of a new fabric. I'm not that dedicated, honestly, to it. The dress is not, it's not turning out as I hoped. I'm particularly not loving the top stitching, what it did when I did the top stitching on it. Now, before, whereas it laid flat before the top stitching, and now that I've top stitched around the edges, it kind of like billow, like it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like fans a little bit in certain areas, even though the top stitching is like really, really straight. So I don't know, this dress may end up being a fail. I'm trying to fix it. I feel like it is fixable. It's just going to take a little bit of work. So with the back darts, finishing off, you know, kind of this zipper, and then I think I will make this dress a lot shorter. Right now this dress is pretty long. It goes to the knees at least, and sometimes kind of to the calf. I think in order for this to look good on me as I've been trying it on, I'm going to have to make it pretty short. Like, not really short, but like probably 4 inches above the knee is what I'm guessing. So all is not lost, I'm hoping, but I just kind of was getting mad at the dress, and I knew I would cut corners if I kept working on it that night. So I set it aside that night, and I haven't really worked on it since. I will definitely be coming back to this in the new year once I come back from visiting with my family in Tennessee. But for now, that's the status of the dress. Katrina, who has Cat's Kettle yarn, she and I are going to be making skirts in the new year. We both really want to make a skirt, and I'm very attracted to the moss skirt. I believe it's a Greenline Studio pattern. I can't remember for sure, but it's a mini skirt and I love it, and I definitely want to make that with her. So if you would like to join in with us, it's not really a sew along, it's very informal, but if you want to join in and make a skirt with us in the new year, then you should definitely do that. And then on those lines of sewing things together, the quilt along that I've been hinting about doing is definitely going to happen. I have not made any videos yet, but stay tuned for a video in early January that will be a materials video, so that will give you plenty of time to figure out what things you already have, what things you need. It's going to be very beginner friendly. It's going to be a 6-inch square patchwork tie quilt. And again, if you don't know what any of that means, we will go over it, but it is the most basic of all of the quilts that I can think of. And if you're new to sewing in general, like you've never sewn anything before, I think this will be a really great project for you to start off with. So I hope you're excited about that. I'm really excited about it. So stay tuned again for that materials video that will be coming out in the beginning of the new year. And with that, we're going to move into acquisitions. I do have quite a few, most of them gifts, and I have some really, really special ones for you today to show you. I just like, every single one is become so precious in my stash. You know what I'm talking about. So first up, we have Tuscan Knits. This one is the Belle Star colorway, which has these gorgeous flecks in it of a darker brownish red. The whole skein is kind of like a blush, not quite mauve. It's like a very light dark, like, but it has some brown in it. So gorgeous. This is an MCN yarn, Merino Cashmere Nylon, and it's gorgeous. I just like, I can't. Maria contacted me to ask if I would be interested in picking out a few skeins from, or a skein from her Etsy shop. And I've been following her for a while now on Instagram. She has a beautiful Instagram feed, by the way. So if you're not already following her, go look up Tuscan Knits because it's gorgeous. This skein was so beautiful, and I just like, if it's okay, I'd love to have the Belle Star colorway, and she said that she had a feeling I would pick that one. I guess I'm very predictable in that way with my neutrals. And when she sent it, along with some gorgeously delicious chocolate, she also sent this skein right here that's on her fuzz base, and this has 20% mohair in it. You can see the halo on this is like incredible. It's so beautiful, and this is her Wickwood colorway. Maria's color sense is just, it's impeccable. It is perfect. Every single color that she has, it's again one of those dyers where I wouldn't mind having any singular item from her shop. It's all perfect. Her color sense is amazing. She lives in the Pacific Northwest. Her photos are gorgeous. If you haven't checked out Tuscan Knits before, do yourself a favor. Yarn enabling alert to the max, because everything she does is so beautiful. You will not be disappointed with a Tuscan Knits purchase. So this I might use in a Find Your Fade shawl. I'm still not sure if I'm going to cast on that shawl. I know I've posted pictures of a fade, and I love the fade that I've picked out, but it's 7 skeins of yarn, and even if we're not using every single part of the 7 skeins, that's a commitment. These are like really special yarns in my stash, and I don't really have an extensive, huge stash, so it's a little bit stressful to me to let go of 7 skeins all in one go. And while I do like the pattern, I like the concept of the pattern in terms of picking out colors, it's not like the favorite pattern I've ever seen in my life. So that's why I'm having like a little bit of trouble picking out yarns for it. Okay guys, sorry, I've had to use my laptop now because my camera battery keeps dying. There might be something wrong with my camera. So sorry about all the weird cuts and changes in perspective and everything. Anyway, as I was saying, Tuscan Knits, I am obsessed with her yarns. You would not be disappointed with an order from her. She just makes incredible, incredible stuff, and the quality is just amazing. The way it was wrapped up when it came to me, I'm just so impressed and cannot wait to make things with this. This might go in my Find My Fade. This might be a pattern I want to knit the Moon Dust Mitts by Melody of the Mandarines podcast. Maria herself, who owns Tuscan Knits, she knit the Moon Dust Mitts in a different colorway, but with this same base, this kind of fuzz base, and they looked incredible, and I love this color, so it's gonna be perfect. Might be what it is. The next acquisition is a gift from Renee. Hi, Renee. She has been following my Vlogmas, and as a thank you, wanted to send me something that I posted about in the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted tag, and that's basically where you posted some of your yarn wishes, and if somebody has it in their stash, they would gift it to you or buy it for you. And Renee saw that I asked for La Bien-Aimée yarn and sent me these beauties. Look at this. Oh, the lighting is so dodgy right now. There we go. Sorry about that. So this is La Bien-Aimée in her BFL Tough Sock Base. And I've never knit with BFL before, so I'm really excited to give this a go. It's 425 meters, 465 yards, 75-25 blue face luster and nylon, and the colorway is called the Nexus Ribbon. Look how gorgeous this is. And it comes with a contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes. And this colorway is called Henrietta Swan Leavitt. These two yarns are part of a collaboration between La Bien-Aimée and Isolde Teague. Isolde Teague designed a sock for this, and I think it was called Knitworthy 3. And I looked up the sock pattern. I don't love it, honestly, so I probably will not knit that sock for this, but these will definitely, more than likely, be socks in the future. Just look how gorgeous. So pretty. It's like a kind of grayish base to it, and it has these gorgeous speckles of blue. They're gorgeous. And then this matching blue, which is coming off more royal on my laptop camera, but it's definitely more teal in person. So thank you so much, Renee. I absolutely adore this, and the chocolate you sent was incredible. So good. And then, last but certainly not least, I have some acquisitions from Sweet Sparrow Yarns. Julie is a very dear friend of mine. Full disclosure, all of these actually, all of these were gifts from her for a Christmas present. And I love Julie. I've gone on and on about her, so I won't, keep going on. But if you haven't checked out her Etsy shop, you really, really, really need to. She has a few things in there, but she does sell out of her popular colorways pretty quickly. But here we go. This one is Figgy Pudding, and it's like this kind of like fawnish brown color, and it has this purpley mauve plum pinky color. Oh, it's so gorgeous. Her nuthatch base, 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. So soft and squishy. I cannot wait to knit this up. So we have that one. The next one, this is one of my favorite colorways of Julie's of all time. This is her Banshee colorway. It was a Halloween themed colorway. And it's this gorgeous minty blue and lilac lavender purple, and it has flecks of darker blue in it. This is one of my favorite colorways of Julie's of all time. Again, another Christmas Eve cast on contender, but I picked a different one. So pretty. Again, her nuthatch base, 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. And then, last but not least, we were going through Julie's stash when I was over there for kind of like a nitty slumber party that we had, and I pointed this one out in her stash. I was like, "Ooh, what is that? That's so beautiful." It turns out that this is a base that she was testing out. It was either a base she didn't end up using or not the final result of the colorway. I can't remember which one it was. But either way, this is her colorway, the more not on a base that she carries, and potentially not even the final run of the color that she ended up going with for this colorway. But either way, I'm in love with this. It's so just soft and beautiful. I can just imagine being on a moor in the Secret Garden, which I watched last night because I love that movie. Isn't this beautiful? So again, not something that you can get exactly like this, but if you check out sales of the more in her Etsy shop, in her sales, you'll be able to see what it looks like. But love, love, love this colorway. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I have a Sweet Sparrow Yarns project bag, and this is one of her Christmas bags. It is so perfect. The stitching detail on this is incredible. Look how even and perfect those stitches are. And her attention to details with this zipper pull, so I can hold it still, the little fawn, and the tab here, she cut out the bunny to use as the zipper tab. It's just like her attention to details like that are just amazing. And the bag it's a really good quality fabric. I love the fabrics that she chose. I love this bag. So right now this is housing my simple house slippers that I cast on, but it will have my Christmas Eve cast on in it. So, and again, I'm using her colorway, Rudolph and Clarice. Perfect combo, right? I love it. So yeah, Sweet Sparrow Yarns, Tuscan Knits, La Bien Amie, probably one of the best acquisition segments I've ever had on this podcast, and thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody who has donated and sent me skeins. I just can't even tell you how kind and generous this was of you, and thank you to Julie for my amazing Christmas present. And for the final segment of the podcast, we're going to go over a year in review. So, I have some notes here to kind of keep me on track. I want to start off by mentioning all the items numbers-wise that I've knit. I've knit 2 hats, 1 sweater, 4 shawls, 3 washcloths, 3 simple house slippers, 1 tank top, and 7 pairs of socks this year. That sounds pretty great to me. I wish I looked up yardage. I didn't, but that was pretty awesome, I guess. I'm proud of what I made this year. And I think that now will be as good a time as any to go over some of the socks that I've made this year. I've been loving watching all of the socks that people have made this year and kind of showing off all the pairs that they've done. So I thought I would do the same. And to start off, I'm going to start off with my sock recipe, because lots of people have been asking me about what my sock recipe is, so I figured I would go over that in great detail so that you guys knew and could maybe implement for your own sock needs. So for my sock recipe, I'm going to use my recent Coloring Book Yarns socks as my model to show you. So my sock recipe is this. I cast on 56 stitches on a 2.25 millimeter needle. That is a US 1. 2.25 millimeter is the best for me because I am a somewhat loose knitter and I get really great fabric with that on 9-inch circulars, which are my preferred needle of choice. I love 9-inch circulars. They can be a little bit difficult to get used to in the beginning for sure. The first 2 or 3 pairs of socks, I was kind of having to learn how to hold the needles in a different way. You do have to hold them differently. But once you get used to it, the fabric that it creates is insanely perfect. The stitches are all even. There's no laddering. And it's just really easy to just pick it up and go. Whereas with DPNs, I find I can lose them sometimes, or I don't know where they're in the bottom of the bag. Magic Loop, as I've mentioned, I accidentally pull it out of the stitches sometimes when I'm switching to different needles. So the 9-inch circulars just work better for me. It's like knitting a hat, but on a smaller scale because the needles are kind of tiny. So once I cast on the 56 stitches, I knit a 2x2 rib for at least 20 rounds. A 20 round rib gives me a pretty good length. 15 is okay, it's just a little bit too short, but 20 rounds of rib, 2x2 rib is my favorite. I like the 2x2 rib because it's comfortable and quick to knit. I like how it feels on, and it creates just kind of a cozier sock, in my opinion. I just really like the fit, and knitting it is easy for me. It's more intuitive than a 1x1. And 1x1 twisted rib, I did used to knit twisted rib in the past, but I just found that it was creating airy-ish fabric for me. Maybe not for some people, but the fabric wasn't dense enough for my taste, and I feel like a rib, the purpose of it is to hold up the sock, so I wanted something that I felt for me and my knitting would hold up the sock the best. Once I knit the 2x2 rib, the 20 rounds, I knit the leg portion, and I like a typically like a longer leg. I knit somewhere around like the 75 rounds range for my socks. And then once I knit the leg, I always do a fish lips kiss heel. This is a fish lips kiss heel. It's a super, super simple pattern, and you can make it as perfectly fitting to your foot as possible. I just use the simple basic pattern instructions that she gives you. I've never tried doing the whole measuring your foot and all that nonsense. Well, not nonsense. I mean, I should, because I would say my one qualm with the fish lips kiss heel is that it's not as deep as I would like it to be. I have knit one pair of socks with a heel flap and gusset, and I do like how those fit better than any heel I've ever knit. So far, I've knit the heel flap and gusset. The German short row heel from Mina Phillips's patterns, I really like that heel too. And then also the fish lips kiss heel. And the fish lips kiss heel I use because I have it memorized. It's pretty quick to knit, and the fit is okay, but not as perfect as I would like. So I would hope to experiment with more heels in the future, but for now, this is what I'm knitting. And then I knit the foot. I don't really know how many inches or centimeters my feet are, so I just kind of try it on until it gets to the base or the end tip of my pinky toe, and then I start decreasing for the toe, and I do a rounded toe. I've tried 3 toes before, a rounded toe, a star toe, and something else, I can't remember, but the rounded toe, by and large, fits the best in my opinion. I love the rounded toe, I have it memorized, and then I Kitchener the end stitches, and I love these socks. So that is my sock recipe for anybody who's curious. And now we'll get into the socks. So I won't show you both of them every time because you get the idea with the sock, but this right here is one of Mina's patterns. This is the Pebbles sock by Mina Phillip, and I used Knit Picks Speckled, the hand-painted speckles yarn for this. I forget the colorway name. I think it was like Confetti Speckle or something like that. And then the contrasting heel, cuff, and toe is in Knit Picks Stroll in their Canary colorway. I think it's called Canary. It's just a bright yellow. And I love that. These were sisters, not twins, because I forgot to put the cuff yellow on one of them, and I made the heel yellow in one of them, so they're just kind of for fun. But yeah, that was my first pair of socks of the year. The next pair of socks I want to show you is one of my favorite pairs. It's hard to say that because they're all my favorites. I love them, but I love this pattern. It's called Socks on a Plane. The pattern is by LINNEMAN. And the yarn that I used is Druzy Rising in her Silky Singles base in the Taffy colorway. And her Silky Singles base has merino and silk in it. The contrasting toe is also a Druzy Rising yarn, and this is in her Paper Lanterns colorway. This is quite a long leg, probably longer than it needs to be, but I was obsessed with the idea of using up as much yarn as I possibly could from the Druzy Rising, just because it's such a coveted yarn dyer and kind of difficult to get, especially now that she doesn't really dye anymore. So I love how these socks turned out. It created kind of like a micro stripe effect between the pink and the blue. And I just love the Socks on a Plane pattern. I've knit one pair of socks on a plane, and I kind of use this kind of cable motif in a different sock, but I will definitely knit the sock pattern again. I really, really like it, and I have it memorized now too. It's very intuitive, very easy to knit. So those are my socks on a plane. The next pair I want to show you are my pseudo Flying North socks, and I say pseudo because they aren't a true Flying North sock. Flying North is a pattern by Maria Monska. I made up this pattern, but it's very similar to that pattern, so that's what I linked on my Ravelry page. The yarn is Stitch Together Studios in the Crazy Cat Lady colorway on her Spark sock base, and so I don't know if that's going to come off, but it is a sparkly yarn. For the heel, I used a Koigu Painter's Palette Premium. They don't name their colorways, so I don't have a color name for you. And the toe is a rounded toe knit out of Yarn Co., and I'm also blanking on the name of that, but again, all of the colorway names are on my project pages. I love these. I named these my Strawberry Patch socks. I just think, yeah, they're really fun. I love the color combo of these socks. These are probably one of my softest pairs of socks. These are my Reptile House socks. The yarn is Cat's Kettle yarns in the Reptile House colorway. That's a Harry Potter reference. And the yarn is just so, so soft. It's literally, it probably is the softest yarn out of all the socks I've knit in my sock bag this year. The contrasting heel and toe is Plucky Knitter Primo Fingering, which is an MCN in the Ogre colorway. I love these socks so much. I love how they turned out. These were originally supposed to be a gift, but then I couldn't help myself and I had to keep them. I love them so much. They're totally my colors, so love these. This next pair, I'm turning to the side here because then you can see the pattern. This technically goes along the front of the foot here. This was a sock design, and I have air quotes around that because it turns out that Cabin 4 already designed a pattern that is basically this. I'm not sure about stitch counts or anything like that, or the length of their cables or the seed stitch panel, but it is exactly that, 2 cables facing inward and a seed stitch panel. So I made up this pattern, and this is knit in Sweet Sparrow yarns in her Secret Garden colorway on her tweed base, and I love how these turned out. Love them. They're just so cozy and reminiscent of the Secret Garden. I feel like I did the movie justice based on this, and I love the Secret Garden. It's one of my favorite movies. So there's that pair of socks. And then last but certainly not least, except for my coloring book yarn socks, of course, these are my Red Heart Christmas yarn socks. And this is a yarn that's been unfortunately discontinued. I don't know why they would. This yarn is so cool, but it's a Red Heart self-patterning yarn in the Christmas colorway on their Heart and Soul base. And the contrasting cuff is a yarn I had in my stash. It was a single ply gold Stellina sparkly yarn, which I thought was fitting for the sock. So these are my Christmas socks. I'll probably wear these tomorrow. And those are my socks for 2016. I hope you enjoyed seeing them. This is my bag of socks right here that I've been keeping them in all year. I do have a stray purple sock in here that I haven't finished yet. I finished one sock, but I haven't done the other because it was my first ever sock. I was just kind of treating it as a learning experience. I'm not sure if I'll ever knit the other sock, to be honest, as I don't really love how this one turned out, but I love knitting socks though, so I have my bag of socks to start 2017 with. And then the last thing I want to go over with you guys are my favorites for the year. I compiled a list of my favorite yarns, patterns, etc., so I thought I would go over those with you right now. My favorite yarn of the year definitely has to be WOOLFOLK yarn. That yarn is so incredibly soft. I can't even tell you how soft it is. It was a pleasure to knit with it. It's just amazing. If you ever get a chance to knit with WOOLFOLK yarn, it is quite pricey, I will say, but it's so soft. I don't recommend it for something with high wear items like socks, even a sweater. I mean, a sweater would be wonderful in it, but it does pill, I will say. My shawl, I used my void shawl, that's what I made out of it, was my void shawl, and it does have some pilling on it, even though I don't really wear it super often, so I'll probably have to get a gleaner to help a lot with that. And then honorable mentions for my favorite yarns. I have some honorable mentions for each of these too, because I just have so many favorites. But honorable mentions for favorite yarns: Sweet Sparrow yarns, Cat's Kettle yarns, Cat Sandwich Fiber yarns, and coloring book yarns. I loved working with all of those. I have more of them in my stash, and I can't wait to continue knitting with yarns from all of those ladies. They're all amazing yarns, so I would highly recommend all of those. My favorite FO from this year has got to be Exploration Station. Coincidentally, I have it here, but this is it. I love the shawl. I love the colors I used in it. I get the most wear out of it. I love the shape. I love how often you're changing colors. I love how I learned brioche with it. There's just a lot going on with this shawl, but altogether, it's not too much, I feel. It's so wearable. Everything about it makes it so wearable, and it was just a pleasure to knit it. I really like it. I honestly feel like I would knit this pattern again. I don't say that about very many things, and definitely not shawls, because shawls are an investment in your time, for me at least, as I'm not the fastest knitter. I'm not slow, but I'm not fast. But I would definitely knit this pattern again in the future, especially for a gift knit. I think it's so usable. It's just a great pattern. And then honorable mentions for my favorite FO go to my Dotted Rays shawl. This year was definitely a year of Stephen West. At this point, I've knit at least 3 of his patterns, maybe more, I can't remember, but at least 3. The dotted rays is the one I reach for the most often, especially in my office because it's so big. It's like a blanket. So if you're looking for a really great big shawl to wrap yourself up in, the dotted rays shawl I would definitely recommend for that reason. I probably use that one in my office more than any other shawl. And then my favorite pattern this year, I've already mentioned or shown you, are the socks on a plain socks. I really like that pattern. It's memorizable, it's versatile, you can use it with speckling yarns, you can use it with tonal yarns. I think it looks great no matter what you use it with. And it's very simple and quick to knit it. The cables, because you want to kind of get to the next cable, has the same effect that a self-striping yarn does, where you're just like, okay, one more cable, one more cable, one more cable. It's a great, great pattern. Honorable mentions for favorite pattern go to Exploration Station, again for the reasons I mentioned before, the Void Shawl, and then also the Facets hat. I really liked the Facets hat. If you've been watching my Vlogmas, you've definitely seen me wearing it. I knit it out of a speckled Madeline Tosh. Granted, speckled yarns, especially heavily speckled, are not the best choice for this pattern because it doesn't show it off. It would probably be better suited to a tonal or a solid, but it's a great, great pattern. I really, really love it. And then finally, my favorite needles, Hiya Hiya Sharps, even just regular Hiya Hiyas. I love Hiya Hiya needles. It used to be kind of a toss-up between that or the Addi Turbo lace tips in particular, but now that I've been using both of them, I think I like the Hiya Hiyas more because they're more lightweight. The Addis are a little bit heavy in the hand, so the Hiya Hiyas just makes things fly even more because they're so lightweight. So those are my favorites for 2016. I can't wait to see what next year brings. I can only tell you and express how grateful again I am to all of you. I do this because I love the community and I love the friendship, and the people are the people are the reason why I do this. I love connecting with you guys. I love talking to you on Instagram. I love communicating with you in the comments and on Ravelry. It's just, there's nothing better than this, and I am so, so grateful to you. So thank you so much for such an incredible year. Beck in particular was amazing. Just like getting to see you guys in person and seeing how excited you are about yarn and knitting and, spinning and sewing and all these things that we're so passionate about, and being in the same place with you was just incredible. I can only say that you guys have changed me in ways that I would have never expected, and I owe so much to you all because of that. I mean, I would be making anyway. Making is going to be a part of my life no matter what, but the community aspect of it and having that is really a game changer for me, and being around people who just get it. So thank you so much for that, for your friendship, for your support, for everything, really. I can't express to you how grateful I am. So from me to you, happy holidays, happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy everything. And I hope that you get to spend time with the people that you love. I realize that we're not all in positions to be spending time with, I mentioned this in a previous Vlogmas, but I think it's worth mentioning again, that, sometimes we can't see family for whatever reason, and that's okay, and I hope that you have friends that you can spend it with, or knitting podcasts to watch, or something that will bring you comfort on that day, and that you find joy in the holiday season. So I'll see you guys next year. I love you all so much. I really and truly mean that. Have a great holiday, and I will see you in 2017. Bye! Mwah!